I will be moving to the theory side and also what we're doing in practice. Actually, it's a very comprehensive topic, theory of mind and social skills, which actually can be discussed for hours, but I will try to be as brief as possible in limited time. First of all, before theory, it's important to understand some of the concepts. Social cognition is the first thing. This is actually referring to the cognitive mechanisms underlying a social behavior, why people behave the way they behave, and the ability to understand, to recognize. It's mostly the sensory processing and social aspects. There's the cognitive empathy, sometimes considered as the theory of mind, but cognitive empathy is all about being aware of the thoughts, desires, emotions, beliefs, and aspirations of an individual. And emotional empathy is the way that you react. For example, in autistic children in particular, we also use the same term. Sometimes we can say these two. I mean, emotional empathy and cognitive empathy can be difficult. ToM is right at the center of social communication. There is the cognitive and the emotional side, which also covers the theory of mind, which results in some challenges in terms of social interaction. As for theory of mind and the social skills, you first have to understand the ToM. After you actually have better understanding of ToM, then we can speak about social behaviors. It is actually a social way of cognition, a way of social cognition to understand the behaviors. So it's also a predictor. It's very important to have a simultaneous development of both ToM and the social skills for healthier development. For example, playground, school, in these types of social circumstances, it's important for building a positive relations with the peers. It's also important for a sense of belongingness. For a high-functioning autistic child, about what others are feeling, what they are thinking, can have difficulty in understanding, even try to understand what they are doing right now. And that's the reason why it's a bit difficult for them to be engaged in such a social environment. There is actually the need for an adult intervention or the influence of a peer. There are some cognitive theories that describes the social challenges in high-functioning autism. I can say this is the theory side of what Professor Hakan already discussed. For cognitive theories, theory of mind, executive functions, and central integration. For theory of mind, I will speak later. For executive functions, as you all very well, organization planning, decision making, using new strategies, it is such a skill. But in autistic children, in terms of planning, flexibility, and self-management issues, they actually cannot adapt to the environment, and therefore they have some challenges in this case. For example, for social adaptation or in terms of any problem, finding a solution, there's actually the cognitive flexibility, which is actually a part of the executive function. That's the reason why they have challenges. Cognitive flexibility is the ability to have different approaches, to have different perspectives to a certain incident. Autistic individuals in particular have a single-minded approach in terms of the perceiving the events. And that's the reason why they have social communicative problems. And they, for example, have something in their mind and they present it as if that's the only solution, and that's the reason why they're excluded from the other peers. And especially in school environment, they mostly play alone. And cognitive flexibility is important to find solutions for the conflicts, finding solutions for social problems and for reconciliation. It's very important actually to describe it to the children by showing certain examples, visuals, while playing, for example, at the playground, at school. For example, playing a single game and insisting on what they want. They have such challenges, so But once there's actually someone else helping, this can be solved. Otherwise, it can even lead to physical violence. Autistic children having difficulty in executive functions at the same time are not adequate in terms of understanding what others are expecting from them, organizing their behaviors, about the order of the game or rules of the game, about ordering. They have difficulties. For these executive functions, as Professor Hakan already discussed, it can be associated with hyperactivity as well. Why? Because executive functions in particular in both is actually a challenge. Again, in autistic individuals, there are repetitive behaviors. They have a limited interest, ignoring of the others. It's all explained by the dysfunction in executive processing. So they cannot actually have selective attention. They cannot, that's the reason why they are different. This is the reason why they have repetitive action, that mostly due to selective attention. But of course, this is only a partial description. Looking at all neurodevelopmental issues, we can actually observe some challenges with regard to executive function, but this theory alone cannot explain everything. How about executive function and the theory of mind? Of course, there's a strong correlation. As I told you, it is mostly the underlying factor is the previous talk. And one of the skills that you should have is the executive skills. And the second theory is mostly the central integration. For example, at certain areas, they are specialized at certain issues. They're very successful in understanding the details, but not the whole. And therefore, they actually have to focus in detail into the different parts of the puzzle. But in cases where there is the need to see the whole picture, they have a difficulty. For example, during the session, even when you're trying to say hello to the child, cannot generalize. And therefore, there is actually the need for someone else to remind, even as routine introduction. And for example, they can immediately play the song that they hear or perfect drawing. And some of them, for example, rules, so they can understand it in patterns, but they have some difficulty once these rules are supposed to be flexible. And it is mostly as a result of their affiliation and addiction to their routines. In those with having such an approach, still both theory does not suffice to properly explain this. That's the reason why we have the theory of mind. Different names and descriptions used in the past about this, but I think it is mostly the theory of mind that we can say. But in the literature, you can actually, as you can see on the slide, so many different definitions. Theory of mind is very closely related to social life, building empathy, understanding emotions, understanding jokes, and at the same time being aware of the aspirations and beliefs of the other. So it's quite a wide spectrum. So it is something to do with the social skills, and theory of mind is used at several different domains of life. And understanding between thoughts, aspirations, and all. To what extent the person in front of you understands what could be the potential actions, can understand jokes or implications, can interpret the gestures and mimics. As you all know, this is what we're doing in our daily routine. Once we read the sentences in such a way, but even if we're not high-functioning autistic individual, also we can suffer from some issues and having some difficulty in understanding it. Evolution of the ToM, it's been quite a long time that a model is tried to be set. It's mostly understanding the desires to beliefs. There's such an evolution. In ToM, as you all know, starts at the very early phases of life and goes up to 3 to 4 years of age, but becomes much more sophisticated. There could be some deficiencies, of course. I mean, we're not saying that it develops only at that age period and not possible to work on this later. No, also during adulthood and adolescence, it is possible to do so. There's a meta-analysis of 178 studies. Even if there are some personal differences, still there is a significant development in ToM, especially at the first 3 to 5 years of age. Here you can see between 0 to 9 months is mostly the emotion detector, mostly from face expressions. Then comes intentionally detector, and followed by eye direction, and then followed by shared attention module. There is the empathizing system and the theory of mind. It says around the age 8, but as I told you, starting with the age 3 to 4, we actually have more improved version of the skill. At the age of 2, they understand seeing. If I can see, I would understand. If I hear, I would understand. Up to the age of 3 years, they understand it. At the same time, making a difference between what is taught and what is actually happening. It develops at the age of 3. In high-functioning autistic individuals, what is so common is, for example, something is crossing your mind, for example, or I'm going to eat you. I mean, just because of not actually understanding in a literal manner. And they can understand the difference between what is real and not by the age of 3 to 4. Or, for example, understand that by the age of 3, voluntary, involuntary actions, similar situations can create different emotions, surprises until the age 4. And it's important. Why? Because, as you all know, looking at on psychiatric issues and all, it's mostly thought and emotions, behaviors, which actually develop already at the age of 4. By the age of 6, they understand the experiences of the others in terms of their mental status. At the age of 7, what should not be said to incriminate the others? For example, once, for example, the teacher said, who took this? I didn't see. Or in lying, on bluffing at the age of 8. At the age of 9, making some estimations from the facial expressions. Over the age 8 to 9, they start understanding the proverbs. And looking at the limitations of ToM in autism, and as we all know, social skills and the ToM is the two major indicators for social competency. Those having some difficulty in social communication in particular, this is one of the diagnostic, criterion of the, again, OCD. And they have a difficulty in understanding the thoughts and beliefs of the others. It is mostly resulting in common attention and symbolic play. Social skills and ToM. ToM, I've already mentioned about this. In the social skills, I would like to say it is something on the top of the ToM. Once we, after working on the ToM, in terms of social skills like communications, paying attention to the others, starting an interaction, joining the group games, and responding to aggressive acts of the peers, and these things can be better performed. But of course, before the ToM, working on social skills can be a limitation on its own. How about assessing the ToM skills? There are some practical tools that we're using. The most common ones, first of all, the precursors are assessed. And it's not only in autism spectrum, but also in learning difficulty and in ADHD at the same time can, in general, be used. So some of the children in particular cannot actually demonstrate these skills. Simple perspective, showing a card. One side of the card is blank and there's a picture on the other side. At first you show both sides as blank and full. And for the drawn piece, once you see it, asking the child what I see and what you see. The other part is at the second phase, it is the basic emotions, first through the photos. For these photos, for example, 4 photos, like fear, anger, being upset, happy. And over this, we are not putting four of them on the top of each other and showing, for example, show me the happy face, show me the angry face. And so that's how we ask the question. Complicated perspective is about a photo, for example. Once you put it on the table, is it the reverse or the normal to me? Another thing in basic emotions by drawing. I mean, from photo to drawing on its own. Again, the four main emotions being worked on, and seeing and knowing what you see, and again, order test, the plot, continuity of events, and assessing the emotions and the based on conditions. We also have some mid tests. In the first level, changing the order and unexpected content. At the second, it's the ice cream truck chocolate, and the second is replacing uh, test. If we have such a child from the very first level, you have to make a good assessment, and if there's anything that they cannot move further, you have to plan for their training. We at the same time have advanced level theory of mind tests, and if, for example, they possibly can do the first and the second level, we move on. At the first and second level, if there is a problem, then we focus on the problematic areas, and then we continue with the ToM advanced level test. There's a test where they are looking, there is again the body language, face test, in particular during adolescence and high functioning autistic children. They have some difficulties, so it's good for executive function. Then also for proverbs, and we have a test, as I told you, just some examples. And the face test, how do they feel where they're looking at. There are actually cards on this. It's possible to work on this with the child over a specific photo or a drawing. Same for perspective, as I told you. If you see, you know, a box, for example, you can actually use any material that you want, and just test that. If they see, they know. High functioning autistic children may not possibly do it. And giving an example, one of the card, then we're playing with the ball, and the ball gets under the car and it bursts. So trying to understand the sequence of events. Elif asked the mother to get the drum, and the mother bought the drum. How would she feel? And emotions were belief. Canan during the holiday wanted to visit aunt, thought her mother would not take, and her mother decided to take her to her aunt during the vacation. How would she feel? It is possible to adopt it also to different methods. I'm sure you probably would know this, especially 4 or 5 years age, they have to pass the test. Unexpected content, a candy box, putting a pen, and ask what could be inside. Again, appearance reality, it's actually a soap that looks like a car. Of course, that's not how we ask it. What is it that we ask it? They can say it's a car. The second level test that we have, a chocolate test, putting a chocolate bar in a box, and the child goes out and watching the person putting the chocolate bar, but this person doesn't know, being under observation, and put the chocolate bar to another box, and asking the question where you should be looking for the chocolate bar. Thank you for your attention. I tried my best to be as quick as possible because of limited time, but thank you for your attention.